All right, first was combat pay. Now even pharmacies and clinics for our nation's heroes are slashing their hours thanks to Defense Department budget cuts, which is due to sequester. Shouldn't our heroes come first? Pete Hegseth is the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America. He joins us this morning from Minneapolis. Pete, we already knew that most of the sequester funding would be hitting the military hardest. What's the latest with the pharmacies?
Well, you're going to see reduced hours, reduced access, maybe less days of the week that they're going to have access to. Also, you've got these furloughs. A lot of DOD civilian employees aren't working on Fridays now going forward. And this is the type of thing that you're going to see when you see indiscriminate across-the-board sequester cuts. It rolls downhill, not to the little guy, to the soldier, to the DOD civilian on that post, either training every day or working every day. And Washington doesn't feel it, but I'll tell you, these posts do. You
know, the thing is, military by nature are told not to complain, not to go to the press, so therefore they have to take it on the chin, so to speak. Do you think some of the officers should be speaking up more?
Well, Secretary Hagel's been doing a tour talking with a lot of straight talk about this to people. You know, military members aren't going to complain. They're going to deal with it because that's what we do. There's a silent sacrifice that comes with serving, especially since 9/11, doing as much as you can with less. However, this isn't the way it should be. This isn't the way it ought to be. How can Washington sit by and watch as this stuff hits members of the military who won't be able to train less, maintain their equipment as much, get the type of pay they've earned, and instead a lot of the big, whether it's contractors or other weapons manufacturers in Washington, right, those things aren't being touched or reformed, which is something that should happen.
I also heard it coming around the corner, unless we get some type of deal on the budget, is another $42 billion worth of military cuts. And remember, the former Secretary of Defense came out and did some preemptive cutting to avoid something like this from happening. So these are cuts on top of cuts.
Cuts are going to keep coming every year, another $50 billion every year, if Washington can't figure out how to reform spending. And on a macro level and a micro level, listen, it's hitting the troops because we're not willing within DOD to reform weapon systems, and it's hitting defense because we're unwilling to reform big drivers of debt and deficit like entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security that are gobbling up even more of the budget. You can't balance this budget on the back of the Defense Department, but DOD can do more with less if they're smart, but it doesn't have to be indiscriminate sequester cuts. You know who this comes back to, Brian? Congress. A Congress that's unwilling to roll up its sleeves, do the dirty business of figuring out where the fat can be cut, and instead it hits the truth on the ground.
Because neither side wants to compromise. All right. And by the way, the president will be speaking about the economy all week long, and we'll see if this comes up. Pete Hegseth, thanks so much. Concerned Veterans for America.